Standing on a massive promontory of rock that rises above the North Sea is Scarborough Castle. Join us now as we take a look around and share its history. A castle was first established here by William le Gros, Earl of York, in the mid-12th century. In 1155 he was forced to surrender it to Henry II, who built the Great Tower and began developing a town beneath the castle's walls. Scarborough Castle figured prominently in national events throughout the Middle Ages and Tudor period, and was besieged on several occasions. The castle was briefly abandoned in the early 17th century, but was reoccupied during the Civil War and twice besieged by parliamentarian forces. Subsequently, the castle was garrisoned and it remained occupied by the army until the late 19th century. The town, meanwhile, prospered from the 1660s as a spa and seaside resort. In 1914, the castle and town were shelled by German warships. The castle became a popular visitor attraction and was taken into state guardianship in 1920. Today the castle is in the guardianship of English Heritage and it attracts thousands of visitors each year. The Roman signal station was excavated in the 1920s. Traces were found of three important phases of occupation. The earliest finds, of which nothing is now visible, were a series of Iron Age storage pits and post holes, dating to between 800 and 500 BC. Built across these were the remains of a 4th century AD Roman signal station and various medieval foundations, including those of a chapel. It is the combined remains of the Roman and medieval structures that form the confusion of walls, mounds and ditches visible today. The Great Hall was a public chamber where the whole household ate. It is set apart from the chamber block and follows the classic medieval form for such buildings. The roof was supported internally by 2 rows of wooden posts. One of the square stone bases for these posts survives, and the position of the remainder are shown in the grass. The main entrance to the building was in a side wall, and it may also have been concealed behind a screen. In the 14th century, the hall described as King's Hall in a survey of 1361 was divided in two by a wall that had an external buttress at either end. King John's chamber block was under construction between 1210 and 1211 and formed part of a residence, complete with a nearby hall and block of withdrawing apartments in the outer bailey of the castle. It is not clear why King John thought it necessary to construct a residential complex at Scarborough, when the castle already had a great tower. Perhaps the rooms in the Great Tower were reserved for ceremonial use, and the residential complex was for the Queen or the senior members of the royal household. It was common in the 12th century to create residences in castles, besides great towers, though the reasons for doing so remain obscure. These lodgings were still in use in 1260 during Henry III's reign, and also in 1361 when a survey made by Edward III describes the Queen's chamber as being located here. It then had 3 mud wall buildings around it. A survey of 1538, however, indicates that the building was in ruins. The surviving curtain wall that overlooks the town was built by King John between 1202 and 1212 and presumably replaced an earlier line of defences. There are 2 different types of tower along the wall. Within the inner bailey, the curtain wall towers are solid and have no internal chambers. In contrast, those in the section of the curtain wall that drops south to the cliff are hollow, to allow for the insertion of floors. This change suggests that the section around the inner bailey was built first. The break in construction possibly corresponds to the year 1206 to 7, when, for no apparent reason, the level of expenditure on the castle suddenly dropped. In the 1730s, a cliff collapse damaged the Cockyall Tower at the southern extreme of the curtain wall, and this is now lost. There is a fine view from here of the castle walls and ditches, as well as a view of the town. The medieval town, enclosed by ditches and gates, extended across the full width of the promontory between the 2 bays, and its medieval street plan is largely preserved. The rugged outline of the keep still dominates the headland. It was built by Henry II between 1159 and 1169 to demonstrate his seizure of the castle. Accordingly, it was placed in a commanding position. From here, the keep not only overlooks the town, but also all of the approaches to the castle from land and sea. Inside the keep, it is still possible to appreciate the original form of the interior. The position of the viewing platform, which is set just below the medieval first floor level, enables visitors to understand how the windows, doors and fireplace appeared within the room. All the other internal levels and divisions, however, must be imagined. On the story above, the position of the floor is clear from the various openings in the wall. Just beneath the centrally placed fireplace, the groove in the wall indicates where there were once floor timbers. No documents reveal how the tower was used in the 12th century. The large first floor chamber was probably a hall for the royal household, while the second floor chamber formed the set of inner apartments for the king. Of the 2 chambers on the second floor, the one entered from the main stair is likely to have been a public room, while that to the east was private and comfortably appointed. With 2 doorways between them, the king could either invite visitors through to see them, or appear ceremonially at one end of the outer chamber. The keep was ruined by an intense bombardment during the siege of 1645. This caused the collapse of the western wall and left the building an open side masonry shell without floors, a roof or battlements. In what was once the Master Gunner's house is this small museum, which houses artefacts discovered at Scarborough. Excavations at Scarborough have uncovered a wide range of artefacts spanning the whole period of the site's history. They give a fascinating glimpse of life on the headland over the past 3,000 years. Scarborough Castle is a must visit for those who like history. Its romantic ruins evoke images of how it must have been in its past.